Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Cancer Smiles and Sarcasm. Today I have Vanessa with me, and she is a fellow stage 4 breast cancer patient. So we're going to talk about that and what life looks like, how she deals with it, how her advocacy has been going out throughout her, 10 years of this journey. So welcome, Vanessa.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And so 10 years, shit, tell me about that.
Yes, originally I was diagnosed in 2015, what they call early stage cancer. So I diagnosed, went through the traditional chemo, surgery, radiation, and I was declared cancer free at that point, which would have been 2026. I was put on a long-term medication, tamoxifen. I don't know. I know many people may or may not know that word, but I'll throw it out there. I was on tamoxifen.
And let me just
Which
back up
was
real quick. What kind of,
yeah.
because there's
Oh,
different kinds of breast cancer. So what kind of
it's
cancer do you have?
yes, my bad. I had
Chemo.
invasive ductal carcinoma.
Okay.
And so I have estrogen positive, HER2 negative, progesterone, I believe also positive. So ERPR positive, HER2 negative, as
Okay.
they call it. I do have a mutation that we found later, but that mutation doesn't really seem to help me at this moment. I wish I did, but it doesn't. And we can discuss that here in a minute.
Yeah.
But originally it was ERPR positive, HER2 negative, inductal carcinoma.
Okay.
I did have some lymph node action in there. So they did remove 3 of my lymph nodes. Not a lot, but now I can't use the right side of my body for anything, which is a little frustrating. That was part of this long-term thing that I had no idea happens when you go through these sort of surgeries. But anyway, so
What surgery did you have?
I had a lumpectomy. So I didn't even have a full mastectomy. I had a lumpectomy as that was suggested to me, as that was the least invasive. Plus, they felt like they got all the lines, so they were pretty optimistic when mine was originally, and I was very optimistic as well. So I never ever thought in a million years that 7 years later, you find that I'm on tamoxifen for 5 years, we get a scan and we say, "Ooh, you made it to 5 years," and they're like, "Oh, let's keep you on this medication for another 5 years." And that's sort of where I was going, just kind of living my life to the fullest at that point. And when I get really, really sick in 2021, I actually thought it was gallbladder. Something was wrong, but I didn't ever think that it was cancer. And when I went and had the ultrasound to see if it was gallbladder issues, they actually found a few lesions on my liver at that point when they were doing that's where they found a couple lesions. That's when we did a biopsy, and that's when they declared, yep, there it is. And my liver was covered in lesions. So I immediately went into chemotherapy at that point, which was the end of August of 2021.
Chemotherapy as in like the
Gemzar.
infusion?
Yeah, I had infusion like
Really?
2 days after. Yeah. Gemzar carboplatin. Boom.
Okay.
They wanted to really go extreme. My doctor was like, we need to go in and do it. So yes. And at that point I had actually removed my port. So I had a port when I had my first chemotherapy. And I was like so thinking that it would never come back that I actually had removed it, had a little ceremony, had a tattoo put there, and then was like, oh man. So
I did that
then I had to go. It's like, what was this all about? So yeah, it's kind of like, I had this, all this like, yay, I have this to show me that I got through it. put a tattoo there that my brother drew for me. So it was so meaningful. And it's just like, what is that? Now it's just, I don't even know how to feel about it because just, it's just a moment in time now, it feels like. But yeah, I didn't even have a port. And so we started using my arm and my veins because I was being stubborn and I didn't want to, like, I can do this without it. And we couldn't. And I couldn't find any more veins. And my whole arm was just so bruised up. So unfortunately, I had to put another port in, which I'm very grateful for
Yeah.
because that is your, Portia Port. She's the one that helps get it in, get it out. I don't have to worry about getting poked in the arm and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't help.
lymph node removed. When you have lymph nodes removed, then you can't use that. That's what you were talking about earlier. You can't use
Yes,
that then arm. So
the
like
other arm.
for the
Yes.
audience who doesn't know,
Oh,
yeah, you can't use the other arm because you've had lymph nodes removed. So you can't use blood pressure rings or
nope.
get blood drawn on that arm. Yeah, I've had the
No,
same issue.
completely restricted. It's like I see a really gorgeous vein on my right arm all the time. And it's like, sorry, can't use it. Oh, but we can't. Nope, sorry, can't use that.
Yeah.
It was so frustrating, but you know, that port was working for a good 6 months and then it stopped working or I was having issues with that port. So we had to remove that second port and I have a third port now
Oh wow.
on my other side. So yeah, no fun, but I have all the scars. I have battle wounds to show that I'm incredibly grateful for my port. Don't, I go in, through all the treatments through all the years. I have to say, as much as I don't like having this inside me, I'm very, very grateful for the port
Yeah.
that sits under the skin and, linked directly to our veins. So,
So you went through that
uh,
treatment and
went through
yeah.
went through that. And then I was on a palsoclivib. I was on Ibrance for right after that, after I did the Gemzar and Carbo. Everything, my scans looked like, yay, they looked well, but they needed to put me on something that would be a little more long term. We started on Ibrance. We put me into forced menopause. I was on a medication called Lupron, which is a big giant needle that goes up your butt, not up your butt, on your butt, your cheek, your glutes. And that is to help, you know, your estrogen levels, kind of cut them down. And I did that for a good 8 months. And then I said, I would just like to have my ovaries removed. So we went in November of 2022 for an oophorectomy
Okay.
and had that done. So I didn't have to take Lupron anymore, but I was on Ibrance and it was actually doing well for me for three and a half, maybe years. I did the Ibrance and then I had a new growth and it was moving. And so that was in 2024, the beginning of actually the beginning of 2025, my bad. We had a reoccurrence and progression. And so we switched treatments.
At that point, you had
And
that's the mutation you were talking about, correct?
no, I guess
Okay.
we did another biopsy, a blood biopsy at that point. My doctor wanted to go in and see if I had any other mutations because the one mutation, the AKT1 mutation, sorry, sneeze. Sorry, came up. So the AKT1 mutation, which I started a drug thinking that was going to be helpful called TrueCap. And no, I helped work for maybe 3 months, but then at my 3 month scan, things looked well. At my 6 month scan, there was still some more progression. So we stopped TrueCap, stopped the Faslodex. I was actually in Faslodex, and instead I am back on another chemo now called Eribulin, Eribulin, which is also
That
called
is
Halaven.
drip chemo as well?
It's drip chemo, yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually a very short, it's like 2.5 milligrams. It's like a syringe that I go in. They get my port and they pour it in, and I'm in and out of there in a very short amount of time.
Oh,
But yes, it's a little inconvenient having to go into the hospital because they can't do it at like a center because of the fact that they have to access my port for that, at least over here where I'm at. That's through where I'm getting my treatment done. It could be different if I
like a
was
small
somewhere else.
town or something.
No, I actually live in San Jose, California. I moved. I live in the Bay Area. We have San Francisco and Stanford, but with the hospital that I go to, which is what I've been going to for the last 10, 11 years, they do have smaller hospitals around, but not infusion centers. The infusion center is in one space. So I drive 35 miles to my infusion center twice a week. On Fridays for blood work, and then on Sundays I do my chemo. And that's currently my treatment. So I go to, Fridays I have my blood work and Sundays I have chemo. I'm very, very lucky that my chemo center does chemos on Sundays.
Yeah.
Their center's open. It's nice because it's, not as trafficy. I have to commute in anyway. I actually had taken those days because it was easy for me to not have to take off time work to do my chemo.
So let's talk about that. So you've been working throughout this time with cancer, and what do you do for a living?
I stopped working recently, but I was a program manager for a nonprofit who who had nothing to do with cancer, but it was a nonprofit in the Bay Area that puts Christmas on for the city. And I managed all the programs because we would do a 35-day event and literally set up Christmas in the middle of our big town, our big city. It's a huge 45-year tradition, but with the progression happening and the change of treatment happening for me, plus my only daughter was pregnant with twins, and I wanted to be more present. And so I walked away from my job to be a grandmother, which is what I am right now. Full-time grandma and a cancer patient. And so, yes, I'm actually very, very happy that I was able to walk away from my job because at the time my daughter really, really needed support going through what she's been going through.
And are you fortunate enough to have like some sort of retirement, or do you have to do Social Security, or what does that look like?
I'm currently on my state disability. So I, I'm on short term, probably through the end of the year, and then we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, 'cause
I
that's a
haven't
big, huge
applied
question for
for
people with
long.
cancer, right? Like, what do
I'm
I
sorry.
do? That's a big, huge question for people
Yeah.
with cancer. What do I do? And
Oh, it was I have to tell you, it was one of the hardest things for me to even accept and walk away, to put in my notice. I was so stubborn and I mean, I've been working since I was 13. I had a paper route. I I never stopped working my entire life. And it's like, not only does it feel like a purpose, in being a single mom and being on my own, I'm incredibly over independent, almost excessively over dependent. So I didn't want to rely on anything or anybody else
uh,
to take care of myself. And that is a very difficult mentality to have when you have a diagnosis like mine, when you have to A, ask for help, or C, mention I'm too tired for something. Like, I just keep going. Like, no matter how tired or stressed or whatever, I will burn myself into the ground, which is exactly what I did, which is exactly what made me make that huge decision. Like, you've got to stop and start taking time for you. If you want to be here to long term for your grandbabies that have now born, you've got to do a better job of taking care of yourself.
yeah.
And
Oh,
that was the big reason for saying stop working full time. And now I just do my podcast. I do other things, but I definitely keep myself very busy. Like I said, my daughter is on maternity leave and I'm just helping her with the babies. I'm sure I will help with some of their daycare, but I also think it's my whole life working as much as I have and being a single mom all I have. This time right now is like a crucial in my me era. I'm actually really, really concentrating on how I can continue to fill my little love cup and keep it full,
Good.
to last me as long as it's going to last.
And do you have a
Mhm.
prognosis, like an estimated time, how much longer you have to live?
No, there's none. I mean, when and my oncologist never gave me a prognosis when I was first diagnosed. I think because then she's I have a really great oncologist who has always been very honest with me, but also not tried to give me any false numbers or any false hope. She's been very clear with me. We're very on top of things as it's not curable. It's very treatable. You can last a long time. Never was given a number. I've looked up numbers based on the medications that I've seen and had, and I, I, I don't see there is no number.
Well,
It's
the
very, very
statistics
different
are
for everybody.
yeah, but the statistics are once it gets into one of your organs that, 65% chance that you're going to be deceased within 5 years.
That's
So,
what they say.
yeah. And you're still
I
kicking, and
have
you're on you've been through a lot of line of chemo. And is it just in your liver, or is it in your breast, or is it anywhere else?
It is in my liver. It's in some lymph nodes. It's what they call the mediastinal area. So the area kind of like if they're in the lymph nodes in your like chest area behind, say your lungs. So like your thyroid area.
Okay.
That's where it's lit up. And there's no way to do biopsies on those. There's no surgery that can happen in that area. So it's been all targeted treatment. It's been treatment through the chemo. And like I said, my last scans showed, which were back in March, they showed almost no light ups, definitely no new marks. Everything shrunk, but they did have, there's still a couple small ones in my liver that just don't seem to want to go away.
Well, hold
But
on, that's good, great for you. I'm proud of you. That's
I'm very, very optimistic, but I'm very realistic. There was a moment in December, early December, where I was having really bad headaches and I was freaking out because I don't normally have headaches or I never had headaches. But it was almost like my head was like my actual brain head was hurting, like my skull, like if I had bumped my head on something like a bruise or something. So when I had it checked out, nothing showed up on the scans and they were like, "Oh, it's not your brain. Your brain looks great." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's something's going on that I can't tell." They did the contrast and they found that it was actually in my skull, like on my skull. So it had gone to my bone. So it's not, it's rare. It's not even rare, but it's not normally what happens. But yeah, in the skull. So we did radiation to treat that. And so far, nothing has come back to my skull since then. And we do like full body scans now.
mm,
At first, we were only doing scans from like my chin to my waist, so to speak. They weren't doing a full body scan, but from now on, since then, my doctor's like full body scan.
well, it's
Um,
interesting that you get that information because, I was told that when it metastasizes, at first, like lungs, bones, those are the most common places it goes, and then the next space is in your brain. And, I have it in my bones, and skull is definitely within that range. So, it's interesting. Like we talk about information and how we all get different information. And you see that a lot on social media where we're all getting different information. And so for me, you're saying it's not normal. And for what I've been told and heard from my oncologist is that it's completely normal that I have it in my skull and my bones. So that's interesting.
I was surprised, and I'm probably not as even though I've been doing this for as long as I have, I don't have all the answers, and I could totally be wrong in thinking what I was thinking because there's just so much. Yeah, there's so much information out there. I was surprised because I didn't know anybody who had it in their skull, but as soon as I said, "Hey," put it out there. Hey, anybody have it in their skull? Oh yeah, I've had it in my skull. Oh, okay, but not brain.
Yeah.
And it didn't cross the blood barrier, so I have to it was almost like when they did that MRI, they looked at me and we're like, we have good news and bad news. And the good news is it's not in your brain, which, okay. But also it's in your skull, but we can radiate it. It was very radiatable and very targeted and whatnot, which I have to say, I know lots of people who've had brain cancer and have had surgeries and have lived a long time with it. So I just want to put that out there. Even if it did go to my brain, even if it would freak me out, I would know that it's not like the end all be all.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's
yeah.
and that's kind of how you've lived your life. And it sounds like, I mean, you're really dealing with dying and the idea of dying. I mean, you've been given this stage 4 diagnosis, right? Not treatable. So you've been given a death sentence, but you're just living a very positive, you have a very positive outlook and living a very positive life with this. Is that kind of
I
how you
think,
say it?
yeah, I mean, I have days, I tell people all the time, like, you'll find me a puddle on the floor. Like, there are days where I just say, F it, F all of this. I hate everyone and everything. And I just need to disappear under the covers and just say, screw it all. And it does. It's so mentally exhausting to constantly be worried about everything, every every pain, every little nuance that you feel. Everything is so your senses are heightened. At least mine are. I am, and I have to find a way to sort of quiet that noise down. I am very, very lucky that I found a therapist who I've been working with now for the last, I've had a therapist for many of my years, but it's only recently that I have found this therapist that has really helped me in the last almost 3 years, like work on my general anxiety from my troubled childhood and work that into living with a terminal illness and taking every single moment of the day to validate your feelings and also be like, it's okay that you're feeling the way that you're feeling. Like, it is so incredibly normal. We're going through I'm going through something pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So it's okay to feel crazy because that's, what else are you going to feel? And so all that, like, so super, I am super against, the toxic positivity talk. Like, you've got this, you can beat this. I honestly can't stand when people say that to
That's one
me.
of my
'Cause,
questions. What's the most annoying
oh,
thing that people say?
I have to say, you got this. You're, you're a fighter. You, what's the biggest one that I hear? So how long are you on this? You look great. That's the big, but you look great. Do I?
I feel like
I have, I have lost, I think I've lost over 60 pounds
wow.
because I've had to lose over, I've lost that in the term of changing chemo treatments and having to adjust my diet because I am also on top of everything. I'm diabetic and dealing with diabetes and cancer. The side effects of a lot of these cancer treatments were really spiking my sugar. And my oncologist had like a come to Jesus moment with me and said, I need you to get your sugars and your diabetes under control because that right there is going to really, really hurt you if this line of treatment doesn't work. Your line of treatment sort of, you become less capable of taking on other treatments that are out there because my diabetes and your blood pressure and all that is affected.
Yeah.
Diabetes is a very scary illness that runs in my family, rampant in my family. My mom, my two sisters, my nephew, my aunt, all of them. carry diabetes. It's very prevalent in our family. So for me to lose the weight, take care of my diet and get it under control to bring my diabetes under control, it, it, it was the biggest thing that I had to do to keep myself here. And I hear a lot of people be like, man, you've lost so much weight. You look so good. And I just want to punch them in the face because that's like, I didn't do this. Yes, I'm glad that I've been able to really get a handle on it, but it was because I had this force inside me that really wants to be here. And I'm going to do anything and everything in my power to do what I need to do to get here and to stay here as long as I can,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
And it's the
Um,
cancer. I mean, the cancer really, takes a beating on your body, and it's sad because you're like, well, I do feel better and I want to feel, I want to accept those. I want to accept those compliments. But at the same time, it's like, this was not a choice. So I appreciate the compliments, but this is not a choice. And I think that's
right.
what it's hard for people to wrap their heads around. And so they're meant to be, just trying to say whatever they can. But, it really for us, it's this it's not a choice. We had to do this to survive,
To
to
get,
live.
yes. Oh, to live. And I think I do still have a couple family members who I don't want to say have a difficult time, but who really have not been able to fully grasp the extent of what I'm going through, right? Because it is huge to really understand what metastatic breast cancer is. And to have to sit and educate every single person can get incredibly draining. So a lot of times, instead of wanting to share like, well, da 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 da. I just say thank you. I don't feel good, but I appreciate looking good. At least that I'll have that I can look good, even if I don't feel good. But it is definitely kind of that language that you hear a lot, and it is as a patient, it is difficult on how to answer these people back
But you
because
don't also
sometimes
don't wanna feel like a victim
no,
kind of, that's
right,
where I
hmm
struggle. It's like, I don't wanna act like I'm a victim, but I do want you to know that this isn't all shits and giggles, Like, this is fucking real stuff, and I am really struggling here, and good, I'm glad
oh yeah,
I put on my lipstick and I put under eye makeup on to make myself look good and I'm putting on a smile. But inside, man, I feel like shit, and like I had to work my ass off to lose weight because I had to just to live.
hmm
Like, and
to live,
people,
to be here.
yeah, and people don't
To
get
be
that.
here. It's been miserable. I don't everything on the inside just feels scrambled. My insides feel so unhappy. My digestional, the poop stories I could tell you, the accidents, the fact that I, carry literal a shit kit I call it, which is a bag in my car with a change of clothes and wipes and all the things because it happens and it's become such a part of everyday life. I think I've just adjusted to it. But when you talk to other people, it's like, yeah, this is, it's what happens. Like, this is kind of like when you talk about babies having blowouts or yeah, that happens. Be ready for it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you know what? You're going to shit your pants. It's
Yep.
going to happen
Yep.
because you don't even
Sharding.
realize
Yeah.
with
Sharding is real.
Charlotte Israel coughing and it come what did I literally just shit my pants while coughing? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's the name of the game. And and you kind of like the humor that comes along with it is because I don't know any other way other than to laugh about it. You know, I you can laugh and cry, and laughing seems to be a better way. So yeah, I like to laugh at myself. I like to make light of stuff just because it's just so heavy already. You know, you look great. I do. Oh, Vanessa, you got this. You're right. I got all the cancers, all of it. I got it all. I got stage 4, level 4 here. You
Yeah.
got, you can't tell you how much higher you can get because level 5 is dead.
Yeah.
So
And
can't go
you've
any higher.
dealt with throughout your thing, you've dealt with the loss of friends. And
Hmm
you've dealt with a lot of you've been on the support groups and doing all that stuff, and in that time you've dealt with loss of friends, and what does that look like?
I have to say that's probably that I would say that is the most difficult part of creating closeness within the community. So when I was first diagnosed, I was in complete denial and didn't want to join any sort of support groups. I don't want to talk about cancer. That's just lame. And through my first diagnosis, I was able to skip that. And I didn't. And it wasn't until after my diagnosis, because I was young. I was 38 when I was diagnosed. I couldn't find any sort of support for anybody, one, my age group, and two, that that felt like, well, I'm not the same person I was, and everybody wants to pretend like it all happened, and I don't, and I'm. It's hard for me to go back to that. What's your new normal? And I didn't know what my normal was anymore, and even with my with my second diagnosis or the reoccurrence, I knew exactly I need to go build my tribe. I need to go find support groups that can at least like help me not feel so alone in this and maybe answer some of my dumb questions because there's a lot happening.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about all these subtypes, you talk about all these different medications, you talk about all these side effects and all these, words that I don't understand. So going in and talking with some peers who are, I been very lucky to find some great groups and meet some good people who have really helped me through while they talk about their journey that they've been on. I was invited to a retreat where I met 12 amazing others with metastatic breast cancer. And that was like a deep dive into all the different types, all the different subtypes, all the different numbers and words. And it was almost like diving into the pool of it. And I got to hear all these. And in meeting those people, and I've really built some amazing connections with them because we all belong to this club that we didn't want to be in, but it's seriously has the best members. I love the people that I've met through this whole thing. And I never would have met them had I not been diagnosed with cancer. But with that, when you lose them because their battle is over, they succumb to the disease, that it's sad. It's more than just sad. It's grief that never leaves you. And it always puts things into perspective for like ourselves. Like
Yeah,
that's
my time is
that
around the corner.
my time could be coming up. You know, I've met people who have been diagnosed for 20 plus years. I've met people who've been diagnosed for 10 months. I have met people who were doing great and then suddenly turned a corner within a month. It's so crazy. There's no one straight diagnosis and everybody's is different. Everybody's story, everybody's health journey, so to speak, is very different. Some people are on their first line of treatment. Somebody's on their sixth, seventh, eighth, and they're still going.
For our guests,
So,
and for our guests talking, like listening to this that don't know what is line of treatment. You can explain that real quick.
when you first when they do the biopsy to look at your cancer, they find out whether or not it has, if it is a estrogen fueled, if it has the protein, the HER2 protein, and so they put you into like little groups. So you kind of put in these groups, and then you get a cocktail of medication to help, that diagnosis. So when you say first line of treatment is like the first treatment they put on since when you were first diagnosed. And that treatment will last as long as it lasts, unless when it stops is when it either you have progression because the cancer has defeated that medication and moved on. It has mutated into something different, or it has changed over to a different part of your body. So that's where they call progression. And so then they'll change a treatment in essence, give you a completely different kind of treatment. It could be chemo, it could be an oral medication, it could be IV, oral, I've been on pills. I've also had IV chemo. So the first line is always like the first one you are on when you're first diagnosed. And then if that one stops working and you have to change treatment, that becomes your second line. And then if that line, you can run that line until, either there's progression or it stops working. And because usually they say it stops working because it has moved to another part of your body or you have more lesions growing on the same place that it was growing before. And so that would be like, and so anytime you're changing treatment, that's a new line. So I've had people, I've met lots of people on different lines and I've on so many drugs that I can't even sit here and there's so many, there is a lot
Right.
and everybody's body's different. I have the exact same subtype as a friend of mine and we're diagnosed around the same time. And we are completely different treatments. And we have been on one same treatment before, but the fact so it really is an individual thing that you're going through. It can be similar to somebody else's, but you really can't compare because everybody's body is different.
Yeah.
Everybody's genetics are different.
And I
So,
wonder too, like, because you and I have the same. So I'm
mhm,
estrogen positive, IDC, but I was told that drip chemo, what I like to call IV chemo, is the last line of treatment. But I wonder too, does it depend on how much, like where in your organs it is? I think that might have something to do with it. I was also told by my oncologist that after your first line of treatment, like every line of treatment thereafter has half the life of your first line of treatment. And so it's always so great to listen to your story and other people's stories to hear that my oncologist is wrong. Sometimes it's like that's not
I
always
feel
the
like
story, right?
it's not, and that's very difficult when you do talk to like some of these oncologists or you hear is everybody's body and genetic makeup is different.
Mhm.
So I think they're taking a very median number, a very average number, and it's very difficult because even these newer treatments that are coming out, people are lasting as much as they're lasting on it, but we don't have that much of a record. So it's very difficult to even say how long is this going to last
Yeah.
because it's such a new product, it's such a new medication that they don't have a lot of information other than the results from the clinical trials.
Yeah.
And
Which I
I'm
do
not the
respect in
most
my oncologist, right? She's not wrong, but she's using the averages. And it's like we're not
right.
all average. And so,
We're not.
like,
And the average is so big, like it's so big. The numbers are so big with how many people are diagnosed. We're talking 1 in 8 women here, 1 in 8 people. So, and that's worldly, right? We're looking at how many people are diagnosed. So I think that, yes, when you try to put yourself into a little pocket, it's very, I say take the words that they tell you, but I'm also the kind of person that really likes to defeat the odds. I'm not wanting to be a statistic.
oh,
I want to kind of be one of those, hey, they said this would last me a year and I'm here 3 years, and I'm still going. I am coming up on 5 years, right? 2026. So in August of this year, the end of August, I will be 5 years since diagnosed metastatic. And they give you that average, like the average length is 5 years.
yeah.
I'm not dead yet.
Yep.
And that's kind of my little catchphrase. Like, I'm not dead yet. But if you see me and I'm not healthy, like I'm not at my top, but I'm not gone yet. And I'm going to take every single day that I'm here to truly, truly do whatever it needs, the means necessary to be here. I think it's the drive that pushes me to want to do whatever I need to do to, and I can't control the medications. I can't control how they do on my body, but I can absolutely control my mindset. I can control my surroundings the best that I can to really try and make the most and the best out of this really shitty situation.
Yeah. One of the good things that you're doing with making the best out of this shitty situation is a podcast. And what is the name of that podcast?
Mhm. The podcast is called The Plot Sickens. Whoa.
I fucking love
Uh,
that.
it is, I have to give credit to my co-host, Deltra. I won't say her name because she's amazing. Deltra and I met at our very first retreat. At my very first retreat. It wasn't her first retreat. She's a pro. She's been doing this song and dance of metastatic breast cancer for going on 6 years.
Wow.
6 years. Yeah. She's amazing. She was diagnosed de novo, which means they are diagnosed right off the bat at stage 4 and diagnosed triple negative. So they have no markers that they can use, specific medication for, So and she is currently no evidence of disease. So she's a miracle. She's literally a walking miracle. And that's all we talk about. Like, we're just going to go with that. But she and I met and we loved musicals. We love podcasts. We love karaoke. We love a lot of the same things. We're both Aquariuses. So our birthdays are like less than a week apart, and we were just chatting and sharing ideas. Oh, tell me your favorite podcast. Tell me your favorite podcast. And then she's like, I've always wanted to start one. And I said, oh my goodness, I've always wanted to start one. And then she's like, what do you want yours to be about? And I'm like, I don't know yet. I just know that I want to start one, but I don't know exactly what. I kind of want to talk about my life as a cancer patient, but I really don't want it to be like I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm kind of working on that part. And she's like, well, I have this idea. Tell me what you think. And so the Plot Sickens is where two metastatic breast cancer patients review movies. We are a movie review podcast, and we review movies with cancer and other sicknesses in the plot. So, and we take those and we just dissect the hell out of it. We just talk all about what we see that looks right, what we see that looks kind of funky, what we agree with, what we don't agree with. It's a very light-hearted podcast, and we like to keep it that way. We like to laugh and make we like to just joke about, because we're trying to make the best out of a really really shitty situation.
Yeah. And
And I love we can do that.
and I was just like amazed when I started looking at your podcast at how many things there are about cancer. I was just like, holy cow, I had no
The
idea.
list keeps growing. The list keeps going. I will tell you, when the very first episode that we put out there, we had almost 50 movies on our list. And we haven't even gotten through half of them because more keep getting added to the list,
Wow.
because more movies keep coming out and documentaries, and we've gotten all kinds of suggestions from all over the place. And we just, if it has either cancer or, so we've reviewed a couple that had, like, we had diabetes, and we also did different kinds of cancer. So not just breast cancer. We've had lung, we've had brain, we've had leukemia. Oh, the early onset Parkinson's was a really great movie. And it was like a funny rom-com, like a romantic comedy. And it's like, how you're going to put that kind of theme into your rom-com? But, they're out there, and we kind of like to pick it apart
Right.
and pull out what we liked and what we didn't like, and also what we thought about as patients, as people who are sitting here watching it with an incurable disease. How does that relate to us?
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. And so if anyone's wondering again, the Plot Sickens. So yeah, join that. Go check it out. Follow them if you're interested. And so one last question I have for you is the biggest piece of advice that you would have to new people, new patients in the cancer realm.
Oh, my advice is my first thing I usually tell them is, you're not alone, and find your tribe. And it's, I Well, I look at every day is a day to make the most of it, because we're not dead yet. At least I'm not dead yet. And I like to encourage people to fill their love cup, make sure they're doing what they feel brings the most joy to them, because that's something we can control. And we can't control our cancer. We can't control the diagnosis that's there. We didn't catch it because we did something wrong. And so I think being able to surround yourself with people that get it and have the perspective of, I'm going to make the most of it every single day, as what I can tell my fellow NBCers. Having a diagnosis is hard. It's yucky. It's the worst.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel that way, feel yucky and feel that. But I definitely think you can live a very, very fruitful life with something as detrimental as stage 4 cancer.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Vanessa, for being here
You're
and
very
for
welcome.
sharing your story.
Thank you.
This is Cancer Smiles and Sarcasm. And if you like this, please comment. Please follow me and also the Plot Sickens. And yeah, give me a message on Facebook if you want to join in